This space was downloaded via spacesdown.com. Visit to download your spaces today.
Hey, Patriot. I'm good. How are you?
Oh, dude, I'm doing all right. Doing all right. Nice early Sunday morning. Hi, everybody. What's going on?
I see Jane showed up. Just inviting her.
Jane with the coach, Shapeshift, Captain. Seen a lot of good people already. Guys, share the space. Let's get some people in here. Nice to see everybody.
Hello, good morning. Can you hear me?
Morning,
Yes.
Jane. Good evening.
Hi.
How you doing, Jane?
Yeah, doing good. It's Sunday evening here, and I'm testing out my new earphone. So I'm glad that you can hear me now. Hear me clearly. Yeah,
Yeah, you sound great. You sound excellent. All right, Levana just showed
thanks.
up. Awesome.
Who do we got here from Levana?
Hey guys, Jonathan Karras here. How are you doing today?
Hey, good. Are you, Jonathan?
It's a beautiful day over here. I hope it is by you as well.
It
For me,
is,
it
man.
is too. Yeah. Jonathan, do we have? Is anyone else joining us?
Yeah, JB is here as well. JB, you want
Okay.
to come up and grab a mic? I think you'll be able to answer a lot of these questions excellently.
We have two JPs and now we have a JB. This is going to get fun.
A JB, right?
Remember, JB. Yep.
Yeah, JB is in baseball. He's got a pretty good Irish accent, so I think we'll be able to distinguish who's talking.
And
All right, he looks like he's up to me. JB, excuse me. Do you want to try your mic?
Hey guys, how are you getting on? How's things?
All
yeah,
right,
good.
good.
Good to chat, good to chat.
Yeah, this is great, guys. Thank you. Well, should we do a little quick intro for all of us? Just 'cause we probably have a few different audiences joining in, and then that way people can kind of know who we are. Um, I'll start. My name's Kenton Ralph Toes. I'm a node operator on THORChain. If you have any rune to bond, reach out to me. Um, and yeah, I'll stop there. Maybe pass off to who wants to go next.
Um, I'll just go. My Patriot. I'm an educator for the THORChain ecosystem, and a lot of you know me. Glad to be here, guys.
So I'm
Yeah,
Jonathan Karras. So I've been leading comms at Levana for about 4 years now. Background is computer engineering. Led BD at Starkware for around 2 years, um, and Levana is a well-funded perpetual swap, similar in design to GMX, but with a number of modern tweaks to it. And we've been deployed now on 4 blockchains for a little over 2 years. Produced about $4 billion in volume and collected a little over 5 million in fees. We've been operating in the Cosmos space on multiple chains, and we are excited to be part of the Rajira family and to make Ruji Perps our home.
Right on. JB, you want to go? Jane?
Yeah, no, oh sorry, yeah, but I'll be quick anyway. I'm JB. I've been knocking around kind of crypto Web3 for probably since 2020 now. It feels 5 years feels like 50 sometimes, when you've been in the space for a certain amount of time. But yeah, I've been looking after social media marketing and community with Levana for I think about 16 months now. So as Jonathan said, we're on the different blockchains, injective, neutron, osmosis, say at different moments. And yeah, we recently passed the 4 billion in trading volume, and excited for what's coming with Regira.
Hi, I'm Jane. I've been a moderator around THORChain ecosystem since year 2021. And now that I'm also a moderator for Multisig and also part of the team that started the Runborn app. So yeah, nice. I mean, really glad to be here and seeing the team getting bigger and bigger. And I'm yeah, tonight actually I'm be here with the objective to really learn about Levana and also the role that Levana will play in with Ujira as well. Yeah, thank you.
Me too. That was great, actually, Jane. It's a great segue into, I guess, the Levana guys. If you could maybe kind of treat us like we know nothing, and yeah, how is Levana its own? You guys have your own token doing your own thing, or are you rolling up into Ruji and Rujira? How is that going forward?
So we're participating in the merge. So users that own the LVN token, which is Levana's native token, can merge their token into the Regira merge. And 5% of the allocation of Regira is allotted to Levana token holders. About 60% of the tokens have been merged to date. And the Levana Twitter handle and material has Medium and Discord, etc. Has been heavily pushing for anybody that holds LVN to merge it over and to come and see the latest and greatest that's happening on Regira.
All right, awesome. So before all of this, you guys, you had a live working perps protocol.
Well,
You have 4 billion in
and we
volume on.
still do. You can use it today.
Okay.
So it's live on 3 different chains: injective, neutron, and osmosis. The largest amount of trading volume has been on osmosis because that's where the majority of liquidity within Cosmos has been historically. And so that's also why we're very excited about THORChain's app layer. We see that the biggest challenge in creating a successful perpetual swap is the liquidity. If there isn't a large amount of liquidity, it's very difficult to attract large traders. So even though well, the application is very well mature. We've been building it for well over 4 years now. It has advanced features such as preventions against insolvency. It has stop losses and take profits, limit orders and market orders. We've kind of always been limited as to the amount of liquidity that was readily available within Cosmos. Now, if you look at THORChain, it's arguably an order of magnitude larger than that, and so we anticipate the adoption of apps on Regira to see significantly higher throughput than what equivalent apps would have had just in general Cosmos.
So on Levana, let's call it 1.0, it's going to continue existing.
Yeah, the smart contracts will still. They're not. Levana is not its own chain, so the smart contracts will still remain smart contracts. Immutable. Chugging along on the existing chains. But what we're really excited about is the vision of Regira, which is strikingly different than anything else that's really happened in crypto before, where you have a suite of applications that all really rally around one token and act as a a focal point, kind of like a lighthouse for a large community to grow around it, and for liquidity to be pooled into an app layer that then can be accessed by a plethora of applications.
When you say rally around one token, you meant the RUJI?
Exactly.
RUJI?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The RUJI
Okay.
token.
And then just one more question about original Levana. When you say majority of the volume is on Osmos and some on the other chains, is that are those just native like tokens that are native to Osmos, or is it like wrapped Bitcoin, wrapped Ethereum?
Well, it does. It's
Like
actually both. So Levana can handle it can handle direct crypto assets. So, for example, you can use Atom to trade in the Atom market with high leverage. You could use Wrap Bitcoin to trade on a Wrap Bitcoin the market. Osmo to trade on the Osmo market. You also can trade synthetic. So you could trade, for example, USDC or USDT to be able to trade anything that was available in a price feed. So it could be crypto assets that are natively on chain. It could be crypto assets that are not on chain, like we support a Doge and a Solana market, a Sol market on Osmosis, even though those tokens haven't been readily available. And then also because Levana Perps, the Perps mechanism, and subsequently RUJI Perps mechanism is Oracle based, it will be able to support in the future external oracles. So you could end up with really funky things like assets outside of the crypto space, and like to totally fresh off the press tokens. Like we saw Hyperliquid had a lot of success. They were one of the first to launch the Trump perpetuals when that came out earlier in this year. And so there's the system that we've designed and built and launched is very versatile to be able to support a number of different types of perpetual markets.
so, how are you if you are on Levana 1.0, like able to trade Bitcoin and Ethereum and whatnot? Where were you sourcing the liquidity for those tokens?
Primarily from the osmosis spot market.
Okay, so whatever DEX was trading there, you weren't tying into any centralized exchanges.
No, exactly. Yep.
Okay, gotcha. And so when you say it's hard to attract trading volume because of low liquidity, can you give us can you kind of compare the DEX or DEXs you're tying into on Osmosis and compare that to THORChain? Like how much bigger is THORChain compared to what you were using before?
Okay, so let's actually look at real-time numbers because these change all the time. So let's pull up osmosis, and osmosis currently has $70 million of TVL, and let's assume that a significant amount of that is their own token, and let's compare that 70 million to THORChain, uh, t- t- which is 241 million. So that's I'd say that's close to a 4x increase in liquidity.
Do you think so if there's let's just call it a 4x larger liquidity, would that result in a like similar like linear increase in trading volume, or would it be actually more exponential?
I believe it's more exponential because there's a minimum threshold in order to be able to attract large traders, and the large traders produce, the vast majority, let's say above 90% of the volume. So if you don't have liquidity to be able to attract, the large, whether it's whales or institutions, so then you're always kind of, playing. You're bowling with the bumpers on, or maybe you're always driving in first gear, whatever you think the proper metaphor is. And so once you can kind of move into a higher league, so then it doesn't just scale linearly in terms of the trading volume, it scales exponentially.
So now can you maybe kind of help us understand like what perps are. Yeah, and then why liquidity for them is important.
Sure. So perps is similar to in TradeFi futures contracts. It's a derivative. Um, it's a derivative asset where you are not necessarily you're not necessarily settling a trade between one two sides of the market. You are in fact settling a predicted outcome on a price discrepancy. And so to say that in simpler terms, really what you're doing is you are making a prediction as to whether or not an asset is going to go up or down in price. And you are applying a certain amount of leverage to that. So you might say, I think that Bitcoin is going to go up 5% in value, and I want to express that view with a 10x leverage. So and I'm simplifying the math here and cutting out fees or anything like that, but just from the simplest perspective, if you think that Bitcoin's going to go up 5%, and so therefore you set your take profit at a 5% gains, and you apply 10x leverage to it, so then you you'll essentially make roughly 50% profit, so 10 times the amount that you had of the spot price increase, because it's the spot price increase times the amount of leverage that you applied to it. Now those profits have to come from somewhere. They can't just be created out of thin air, and so that has to come from liquidity providers. So liquidity providers are essentially acting as the casino, the house. And if we were to just bring the analogy to a blackjack table, the if you go to a blackjack table that that the dealer only has $100, so then obviously he can't take on bets where he's going to have to pay out more than $100. So he very quickly gets tapped out and says, "Oh, I'm sorry, no more bets," or "I'm sorry, I can't take on a bet that size." Now, on average, blackjack players lose. So that there's the old adage that the house always wins, or over a long enough period of time, the house always wins. And so then, if the dealer has access to a deeper amount of liquidity, then he can attract larger players. He can have a larger turnover in terms of players' wins and losses, which then result in a total larger amount of volume and a larger amount of fees that he collects.
But in this case, like when you say tapping into liquidity, like the liquidity providers, someone's have to pay. Like it's not like THORChain's pools, the liquidity providers in the pools are going to be paying out on these bets. Like it's gonna, aren't they? Isn't it more like kind of like peer to peer on when people are trading on these
Well,
perps?
it's a three-prong relationship, and yes, it's an opt-in, meaning that liquidity that is on the base layer of THORChain will not by default be exposed to the perpetuals markets, but through the ecosystem of Regira, there will be incentivizations for THORChain liquidity providers uh, to also provide that liquidity to the perpetual markets. And as I mentioned with the three prong markets, so there's long traders and short traders and liquidity providers. Long traders think that the market is ultimately going to go up and they want to profit when it goes up. Short traders think the inverse, that the market will decrease or go down, and they want to profit off of the decrease. And the liquidity providers believe that long traders and short traders will more or less over time lose more off. They will bet incorrectly more often than they bet correctly.
Okay, so so people can opt in to provide liquidity to these perps, this perps trading platform.
Yes.
Okay, and then what incentive? Why should I provide liquidity on a perps platform?
Well, two things. One is you'll be able to get yield, and so you'll be able to get yield from a few different ways. One is through directly providing to the liquidity pools, meaning that traders will borrow your capital and they will pay high fees in order to borrow your capital to create the leverage with. Two, you'll be able to provide liquidity for automatic market making, which will balance the longs and the shorts, which will perform. It's something called funding rate arbitrage, and I can explain how funding rates work in a second. And three, you'll earn as farming rewards Ruji tokens for providing liquidity to the various markets. So there's a few different ways
So
to profit here.
the yield is real. It's coming from other users. They're paying you for your liquidity.
Exactly. So it is. It's you're putting in stable coins like Tether or Circle, and then you are presuming that traders are on average lose more than they earn. You are you are both earning a percentage of their losses and the fees that they pay in order for them to be able to borrow your liquidity.
So is it fair to think of these liquidity pools on Levana? It's like the liquidity pools in Levana is like a liquidity pool on top of a liquidity pool on THORChain. There's like two different liquidity pools. Um, does that
Well,
make
you would be
sense?
able to take, yeah, so you would be able to take liquidity that's already on THORChain. You'll be able to securely bond it into the Regira app layer and then deploy it into a vault, which has a historical APR or ROI. That APR accounts for what you're being paid, and ROI also accounts for traders' wins and losses. And so you'll be able to see that historical data and then decide if you want to provide liquidity into a blended pool, which would rebalance across all of Levana's markets, or a specific pool, like let's say the Rune pool or the Bitcoin pool or the Solana pool, etc.
So I've got a few different questions trying to figure out which direction I want to take this. So the prices on these perps that people will be trading are the price feeds coming from THORChain, or are you using oracles to get outside prices too?
Well, it's yeah, we're the currently we are using THORChain as the oracle. So it is the prices traded on THORChain. Down the road, we do anticipate that in order to be able to have a broader set of assets and be able to handle larger trading volume, that will incorporate external oracles as well.
So like in theory, could you have perps trading on like 10,000 different tokens, just as long as you had like a reliable price feed? Like
Exactly.
it doesn't matter if those tokens themselves trade on THORChain. All you really need from THORChain is liquidity. Um,
Exactly. So what this does is it opens up that THORChain could potentially be used as a global Nasdaq or commodities market. It could be used for the points on fantasy football leagues. It could be used to bet on weather patterns, really anything that you could imagine that you can express as a number on a line that goes up and down.
so I'm curious. Sometimes, so if you're using price feeds from THORChain for the perps, um, sometimes the pools on THORChain can get out of whack from a centralized exchange. Like the Bitcoin pool could be off by 5 or 10%. How would that affect people trading on Levana? Like, would it just throw like kind of like because using leverage, all these trades are leverage. So a 5 or 10% change on the underlying results in a 50 or 100% change on your leverage position. Could that really
Yeah,
affect trading? Could that be a problem?
absolutely. Well,
Yeah.
so the initial version of Ruji Perps will incorporate the price feed from the native oracle within THORChain, which will be subject to the that spread, like what you mentioned, between other centralized exchanges and the price that's found on THORChain. So absolutely, it's important to have one point of truth. So but the long-term vision is to incorporate third-party price feeds, which use a blended price and spike resistance. For things like Pith and Chainlink are great examples of those types of oracles.
So you guys would actually feel better having uh, a trusted oracle in the future, like something that everybody uses, versus relying on the THORChain price feeds. Did I hear that
Well,
right?
I don't think it's better or worse. I think that they're different products. The advantage of just of having everything be in-house and just getting the price feed from THORChain itself means that there's no reliance on third-party systems. But as you said, no reliance on third-party systems does mean that the definition of price is the price of the asset on THORChain, and we are limited to the assets that are available on THORChain itself. So I
Mhm.
wouldn't say one is particularly better than the other, but I would say that they're different products and that both has a valid use case.
And for traders, I guess, do you let them know where you're getting the price feed from so they can factor
Yeah,
that into their own risk analysis or whatever?
exactly. It'll be very transparent on the UI. Where the spot price is coming from, where the historical price is coming from. What how to independently verify the price that hit on chain in each block. And other things of that nature.
Hmm. So you mentioned funding rate. What is that?
Yeah, it's a great invention of perpetual swaps. Essentially, the if there's if there's a lot of people that want to go long and only a few people that want to go short, so then the price of going long is higher than the price of going short. And the part of that price is the price can be thought of into really three different main buckets. One is just the trade price, the cost of opening or closing a trade. Second is the borrow cost. The higher leverage that you want to apply, and the more um, volume that you want to produce, the more that you'll have to borrow, and you'll have to pay a fee for that. In addition to that, you have to pay a fee based on how much you are imbalancing the market. And so that's funding rate, or you can think of it also. Another terminology that we use is a delta neutrality fee. Um, and so what that accomplishes is that it encourages more traders to come to the less popular side and open up a something called a basis trade. Now, let's say, for example, to drive this home, with a simplified narrative, that going long on Bitcoin on Ruji Perps, costs 40% APR because everybody and their grandma are long, and nobody wants to go short. So now short might be paying out 200% APR because it's those same funds are paying into a smaller pool on the short side. Now that 200% APR could be very lucrative for somebody to come and produce a two-part trade. They might go short on Ruji Perps, but then go long on Binance, or they might hold spot. So essentially, they could have a short position for $1 million worth of Bitcoin on Ruji Perps, and they went out and bought $1 million worth of Bitcoin. So if you have $1 million short of Bitcoin and $1 million long of Bitcoin, you're delta neutral. You're not going to be impacted by the price movements of Bitcoin up or down. But while you're holding that dual position open, because the funding rate is in your favor and paying in your favor, you would then be earning, a massive premium for holding that market neutral position, and that's called funding rate arbitrage or basis trading or cash and carry.
So in theory, that trade would essentially be like free money. So that funding rate, in theory, should always be close to zero.
Well, it's usually not because the market is inefficient. And if it came to zero, then nobody performing a basis trade will be making money. But it should always reach some type of equilibrium where, and you see this on larger centralized exchanges like OKX or Binance. You can see the historical funding rates. Whether they sit anywhere from 5% or 45%. A lot of it will be based on the sentiment of the market as a whole and the overall inefficiencies associated with that market.
So, for example, like on Ruji, maybe when it starts, it's really small. It'd be hard for somebody to go to short $1 million of Bitcoin. There may not be enough liquidity for them to be able to do that. So they can't close the gap on that funding rate. Is that what you're saying? Am I
Uh,
understanding that right?
no, so that's a different issue. Well, actually, one of the things that our mechanism does is it ensures that if there's if there is a uh, that they were never in a situation where liquidity is all dried up in one direction. So the system will actually halt the opening of new trades if it detects that it would be impossible to bring through a counter trade the funding rate back within an acceptable range. So there are safety mechanisms to prevent the case that you just mentioned. But when I mean inefficiencies in the market, really what I mean is that there's a general level of sophistication amongst arbitrage operators that takes time to build out. People need to build the tools. They need to build the signals. They need to trust. They need to become comfortable with deploying capital in an automated fashion, and those things will take time. And we've seen this, like for example, with a lot of the MEV stuff that's happened over the years within Ethereum specifically. You looked at historical gaps between centralized exchange prices of blue chip items like ETH on Uniswap versus on OKX or Binance or Coinbase, and over the years those gaps have shrunk because more sophisticated players have come in and built better tooling and deployed more capital to ensure that they can really extract whatever amount of basis points that are available to extract um, performing this type of arbitrage. So we anticipate a similar process that, initially upon launch, the gaps will be larger, and then as we grow in popularity and usage, they'll close over time.
So the funding rate, is it different between each market, or is it basically kind of trends the same rate between all markets?
Well, in
Like
crypto,
is it,
there's a lot of reflexivity. When people tend to go long, at least historically, Bitcoin, when Bitcoin rises, all boats rise. Obviously, we've seen, that hasn't necessarily been the case in this market cycle, but it's the inverse is definitely true. That it tends to be that when the Bitcoin funding rate is in favor of shorts, that other markets will also have a similar funding rate, but sometimes to a greater extent or lesser extent.
When you say other markets, you mean like ETH and Solana, like other
Yeah,
tokens, or
yeah,
other
other
markets that trade Bitcoin?
no, other assets on the same
Okay.
platform.
But if the funding rate is negative on Ruggiero, it's going to be negative on Binance and other platforms and whatnot too, right? You wouldn't have a positive funding rate in one market and a negative one in another. Like they should always trend pretty close to each other.
Yeah, that's what we've
Or,
seen historically, is that the market
yeah,
as a whole becomes bullish or bearish, and that impacts all exchanges.
yeah. You mentioned earlier something you have something in place in your design to prevent one side of the trade getting too big compared to the other. Is that proprietary, unique to you guys, or is that how all perps platforms try to manage the risk somehow?
So there are, I can't speak for all of them because there are about 80 different perps markets or similar markets in DeFi, and there's a number of them within CeFi as well. So I can't claim to be up to date on everybody's safety mechanisms, but it's definitely something that is not unanimous. Levana's perps mechanism is considered a conservative perps mechanism, where the uh, the automatic halting or rejection of new open positions will be done in order to prevent the overall solvency of the platform and general health of the liquidity markets. The more imbalanced the long and shorts are, the more risk that LPs are taking. And if the platform commits to payouts that are beyond what is available in the liquidity pool, so then if everybody goes long 50x Bitcoin and then Bitcoin jumps to $1 million, so then that creates a bank run, and then where only the first few percentage would actually be able to close those positions and realize those gains, and then the rest would essentially be held left holding empty bags. So there are Levana is designed from the ground up to be able to prevent those types of scenarios.
And so you're trying to do two things: protect the traders and the liquidity providers. It doesn't benefit anyone for the trades to get that far out of whack.
Yep, exactly.
And then let's just pretend that actually did happen. Um, your controls weren't good enough, or you relaxed them, or whatever, and it did become, some traders, only the first few that got out were able to make money, and your liquidity providers got wiped out. How would that affect THORChain and the THORChain pools and whatnot?
Well, so in terms of what is possible in the system and what isn't possible in the system, it's not possible in the system to be able to allocate potential wins greater than it can pay out, and that's because of the well-funded mechanism. Every position that's opened on Levana comes with an automatic take profit. Now, users can adjust that take profit, but every position needs some type of a take profit. So the system, every time it opens a position, can calculate with certainty what's the max amount that it would ever have to pay, assuming that every single trader closed their position in the profit. And so because of that, it's impossible for the for the for to have that situation that you described, where only the first few people could close their trade. That being said, the second thing that you mentioned, which is that the longs and the shorts become so out of whack, and this could be because of um, times of extreme volatility, um, where the system is designed to pay out, or is required to pay out, a large sum of funds. So then the liquidity providers are really acting as the house in this scenario, to give the analogy of a casino. And this would be an example of where the house was hit badly because, you could think of it as, a whole, a team of NFL, Super Bowl champions all came in and they all bet on, you know, red, and they all won. And so now the manager of the casino has to go um, into the safe and basically empty it out. So that is a scenario that is possible. Um, and the haircut would be taken by the liquidity providers, but the system would remain solvent, meaning there wouldn't be a debt greater than the total amount of sum that the liquidity providers had deposited. Um, in terms of how this would impact the actual THORChain itself, because it's a voluntary process to participate in LPing on the perpetual pools. So then only the integrity of the THORChain LPs themselves would not be impacted whatsoever. Only those that volunteered to participate in the extra yield earned from the perpetual market pools.
So the liquidity pools on Levana, or Ruggiero, sorry guys, however you want to say it, that that is used. Those are using secured assets. It's not
Yes.
using pool units from THORChain.
Yes.
So the secured assets, if those get liquidated, that's fine. The secured assets on THORChain side, it can grow and shrink. It's not going to affect um, the room price directly. It's not going to affect the THORChain's liquidity pools directly because they're outside of THORChain's liquidity pools. So
And to keep in mind that no secured assets get created or destroyed in this example. So it's just simply a matter of the same assets that were secured moving from, a winner, or from moving from a loser's wallet to a winner's wallet.
okay, so the people providing liquidity on Levana, those pools are backed by secured assets on THORChain, and let's say your example, there's some big bets that pay out, and those liquidity providers on Levana would lose out because they have to pay the people that made the right bet. But they're basically just it should be shifting ownership of the secured asset from the liquidity provider to this perpetuals trader. And then it's up to that
Exactly.
perpetuals trader if he wants to hold the secured asset or not. He may want to sell it. If he sells it, then he's basically be selling back into the Levana pool. And there maybe be some other buyer of those assets. So you could
No,
have
he would actually
okay.
have he would actually receive, or she would receive the secured asset of USDC, which then which is actually, it really is um domiciled or custodied on THORChain itself. So they might then go and decide that they want to buy spot Bitcoin with it, and so now they own Bitcoin on THORChain, but the assets never, the winner in this scenario that receives USDC, or some other type of stable coin, um, receives it within the Rajira environment. And when they move it out of the Rajira environment, so then it's still on THORChain. Obviously, then they can move it to some other chain or move it to some other wallet, but they are they're encouraged within the UI, and there's a wide variety of actions that they can perform with the assets to heavily encourage and incentivize them to continue taking their winnings and and continue to participate in economic activity within Rajira.
So Ruggiero is like a casino in Vegas. You don't know where the exits are. It's always the same time of day, pumping full of oxygen. You're trying to get people to stay in as long as
Yeah,
possible.
and yeah, drinks being passed around by all.
Right on, awesome. But if the person does want to exit with their USDC and go to Binance and cash out, then that would be a redemption of the secured asset. That's when secured assets would
Yes,
actually drop. Okay. Um,
exactly.
okay. But But for me, and maybe I don't know the listeners, but what's important is everything is happening on the secured asset side. Nothing is happening directly to THORChain's liquidity pools or the Rune token. It's all
And I think
separate.
this is what I'm so excited about Rajira, is that we get this, to use your analogy, we as Rajira builders, as part of the Rajira builders ecosystem, we get to build all of these fun things to do with secured assets, without bringing any risk to the core chain itself.
Yeah. Well, maybe I should stop, see if Jane or Patriot or JB, if anybody else, you guys want to chime in. Do you have any questions or
Yeah,
comments?
I do have some questions, but I think JB dropped down, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know if maybe we want to invite him back up. But Jane, I'm going to let you go first since it's late for you. If you have any questions or concerns, and by the way, guys, please just take a second and share this space. This is blowing my mind what I'm hearing right now. I'm very excited. Go ahead, Jane.
Yeah, I do have some question here because it sounds to me that with Levana, we do have enough, really have another amazing functions that will be really benefit to our full chain user, right? Also, it's like really via the Jira apps layer. So now the question is that if I take a step back, thinking from a core chain liquidity provider perspective, so is that okay for me to say that with Levana Perpetual with us right now, that functioning and assuming everything functioning well, so from the base layer LP perspective, it should be a net positive, right?
Well, what it does is it offers an additional earning potential with transparent risk reward historical metrics. So meaning you can see how much traders have been winning or losing and what fees that they've paid on various different markets. It encourages people to come and bring assets to THORChain and secure them so that they can participate in Rajira Perps and the rest of the applications within the Rajira ecosystem. And it helps act as a liquidity suck or a liquidity vacuum that if there are um, traders that have idle capital within THORChain that they might have moved to other ecosystems. So now there's a whole new to go back to the analogy of the casino, there's a whole new wing of the casino that's just opened. And as more oracles are added and more markets are added, whether it's commodities, whether it's in terms of like real world assets or real world events, there's just more things to do with your funds within the THORChain ecosystem. So I think that justifies it as being a net win for THORChain.
Awesome. I see Corty's hands up. I'm gonna. But did you have something else, Jane, before I start speaking?
No, no, no. I think thank you so much for explaining. I think this is really something. It is a really a good news to the Thor chain base layer liquidity provider, and it's really like with your explanation just now, it is really can give the confidence to the base layer liquidity provider that as long as they can be patient enough, I think when there is more usage of the base layer, there will be more earning from the liquidity provider perspective. Thank you so much for explaining this.
Yeah,
Well,
I
yep,
agree. You're gonna
you're
have a different.
welcome.
I agree. You're gonna have a different revenue stream for liquidity providers. I mean, I think the potential of this thing is absolutely astronomical. Okay, so I just got like a few basic questions because I have to learn about Levana. Okay, and Kenton has been an absolute marvelous job asking all the great questions. But okay, so on Levana, there's perpetuals, obviously. Are there inverse perpetuals as well? Is there regular futures like they're time capped as well on Levana?
So no, it is well. There are inverse in the terms that you can go long or short with the same amount of leverage. But there's no time-based futures. There's no option contracts or future contracts. Now we did design on Terra about 3 years ago American and European options, which we have the potential to migrate over and launch within the Regira ecosystem. But time will tell if that will be a focus, or we'll grow with another dedicated team to be able to focus on that project. But you are able to open long or short with high leverage up to 50x on various markets, um, and set stop losses and take profit trigger orders so that you have performance based triggers around those positions.
Okay, sure, that makes sense. And before I ask my next question, guys, if you're listening to the recording of this, just pause it for just a second and please share this, because you guys are listening to, I think, some really historical stuff here. This is absolutely incredible. Okay, so another thing, because again, I need to learn about Levana. Just a quick question and a follow-up question. So Levana has a DAO, and the DAO votes to tweak some parameters on Levana, or at least it can do that. Is that correct?
Yes, to date, it's the parameters have been set as default for almost every market. For Regira Perps, there's it's initially going to act as I would use the term loosely a council to identify the optimum nuance of the positions for of the settings for the various different markets. But ultimately, we would like to give the fine-tuned control over to Ruji token holders. But I think that process will be a gradual process over time.
Okay, so great. I'm glad you said that. So my main question really is, okay, so node operators are listening to this right now. I mean, Kenton is one, and there's some in the audience, right? So when they're looking at Levana and they're voting to have it start active and trading, right? They're voting for its current implementation. But if there's going to be a change, because node operators have a lot of things to pay attention to, their bandwidth is, it's limited. If there's going to be a change, not to say this has happened or you're going to make some crazy change, but if there were, is there a feedback mechanism so that node operators can keep apprised of changing things on Levana?
I think that so the way that it's been done to date has been historically been through a combination of Medium posts and uh, and Discord updates. I think that methodology will will probably be the best way to continue. There also will be any time that there is deployment. Obviously, that's transparent and on chain. So there will be a change log of various parameters if there's config files that are updated. So all of the details will be readily available, and I think that it's really with all the projects within Regira, it's going to be we've got big shoes to grow into in terms of how we manage communication with the broader with Ruji holders, with the users of our various protocols.
This space was downloaded via spacesdown.com. Visit to download your spaces today.
And with THORChain node operators, to kind of focus on the signal and block out the noise and make sure that we're communicating at the right cadence with the right the level of verbose, if I'm saying that correctly, so as to not kind of drown out the important things with every nuance change.
Right. Okay. So I just for just clarity's sake, when node operators vote for Levana, they are voting for a system that has a little bit of autonomy in terms of what they can do with Levana proper. So node operators voting to start Levana and to
and to be clear, it's not where it's the core engine of Levana, but what we're launching is Regira Perps.
Right. Okay. I understand. Okay. Yeah. I just wanted to make sure that that's just square and clear and how exactly that works. Thank you for answering that. I'm going to let it go to Koitsu now. He has his hand raised.
Hey, I had a question about this. Earlier in the conversation, when Kenton asked about liquidity amounts comparing Osmosis to THORChain, you said that roughly there was a 4x increase. However, later on in the same conversation, you stated that actually the liquidity pool asset that's being used are secure assets in THORChain, which is not are not necessarily the same full liquidity pool size. So I want some clarification on that, because if this is if these kinds of assets are something that, and these kinds of I don't know how to call them, trades, whatever, these kinds of bets or something that's going on purely done by secure assets, to me that's very different than if you were to be doing them with liquidity pools. I will say right now that if it was using normal liquidity pool assets, DLPs would probably be screaming angry about this. So can I get some clarification on what actual liquidity pool assets you were referring to on THORChain?
Yes,
Thanks.
so no problem. That's a great question. And this is no different than our deployment on Osmosis. On Osmosis, you can, Osmosis is a dedicated chain that provides, it's an app chain that the main application is their AMM, their decentralized exchange. Now, users are not by default that are providing liquidity to the decentralized exchange. You're not by default providing liquidity to Levana. It's an optional choice to take those assets that were on the base layer of Osmosis and then to purposefully deposit them into Levana. That's a very similar mental model of the base layer LP assets on THORChain and the secured asset deposit within to Levana. So once the assets are already on THORChain, you'll be able to secure them into the Regira ecosystem, and then you'll have a number of different earning opportunities, one of which will be Levana. Now, the total addressable market, so to speak, here is about 4 times the size of what's currently available to Levana on Osmosis, and that's where I think the comparison is very sound. It's a very similar process from being an LP participant to working within the app layer and deploying specifically into a specific app.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay, so it's mainly about the total liquidity that is available to potentially participate in this, as long as essentially they are taking from THORChain liquidity pools and turning that into a secured asset, thus on Regira. And
Now,
from that, they can participate in this. Is that correct?
yes, and I don't want it to come across as only parasitic. By having additional services that can be that have additional earning potential on top of THORChain within the Regira app layer. So this is a net positive, and we anticipate that it will not just take from the existing liquidity pools, but will actually attract additional outside players to be able to park their liquidity. There are people, I propose that there are people today that are depositing liquidity into the liquidity pools of THORChain itself, but that's not the only party that they're playing at. They're also on Hyperliquid. They're also, on Pump.fun. They're also in various other places. So by bringing more of that utility home to THORChain, so we create collectively within THORChain, we create a more robust user offering, which then means that users don't need to go out and search for other places to be able to scratch those same itches.
Okay, that makes sense. I would like to point out, and as a reminder, though, currently any liquidity pool on THORChain that has greater than 40% synth utilization is currently paused for deposits. So I wasn't sure when you guys were planning on launching this, but that is something you may want to keep in mind when comparing and stating that, well, people may be wanting to deposit into TCLPs so that they can participate in this. I would be a little careful about doing that right now. But I think once we get out of the THORFi deal and things are a little bit more stable, I'm pretty sure those will be released and will allow deposits back in there again.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much, Mark, by the way.
Yeah, and thank you for the questions. You were very articulate, and it was a pleasure. I just want to say that in terms of our target launch, we're targeting to launch this within in the next month, hopefully even sooner. We're currently in the process of deploying on StageNet, and so hopefully we'll have a public beta that people can play with on StageNet, and then in terms of people bringing in outside capital. To my knowledge, there will be solutions where people can bring in outside capital. I don't have the details of exactly the final methodology that'll be chosen for that. It could be through Noble USDC. It could be directly from USDC via ETH or various other bridges. So I'm not. I don't have the exact answer as to what the solution is, but I do know that there will be a way to bring in additional capital to THORChain, even considering the synth LP pause, which as I think we all know is a temporary solution at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, perfect. Yeah, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it, but perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
If I could simplify what you guys are just talking about, it's like if somebody has $1,000 in THORChain's liquidity pools, they might have a few $100s more they're going to bring in and put into the Levana and Ruggieri pools. Like, it's not like they're going to necessarily withdraw from the THORChain pool and move it over to Ruggieri. They might bring in new money into that new pool. That's the hope. That's the idea.
Yeah, that's definitely our goal, and I think that if we do a good job, we're going to see, collectively as the part of the Ruggieri ecosystem. If we do a good job, we're going to see an increase to the THORChain pools. Assuming that's possible given the current THORFi situation, and we'll see an increase in secured assets and in the pools themselves to Ruggieri Perps.
Yeah, the Ruggieri and the app layer could will hopefully generate a lot of fees and revenue for THORChain, drive up the room price, and get the THORChain pools removing that synth utilization and getting them back closer to even. And just to remind people, what's helping prevent Ruggieri from cannibalizing the liquidity on THORChain, it's because all the fees on Ruggieri, 50% of those fees go towards THORChain, go towards the pools and node operators. So if Levana and these perps are doing awesome, there's all kinds of trading activity, generating all kinds of fees for its liquidity pools, they'll benefit and they'll grow, but half of those fees are trickling down to THORChain base layer, which then go into THORChain liquidity pools, increasing the yields there. So there's going to be there'll be some balance between the two. Some natural equilibrium will be reached. Is that right?
It's a very elegantly designed symbiotic relationship.
And that was why there's a big, this is why the app layer on THORChain is permissioned to force the apps like Levana to share their fees with THORChain. Because if it wasn't, and anyone like Levana, anyone could just go, rock up and launch some platform like this on THORChain and not share any of the fees, then we could have liquidity get sucked out of THORChain and go to this other layer and be a net negative for the ecosystem. So this is why this permissioned, why these apps are permissioned right now for this reason.
I will add something. GRC Chris did actually come up with a flowchart diagram of how this works on the TC Dev Discord somewhere. He came up with one for TCUI as well. Maybe I can find that and link it, but it really helped me understand where kind of like the kickback from Ruggieri was coming into THORChain and how that's beneficial. So it's not just purely a parasitic model that we're talking about here. It's a it's kind of a mutually exclusive model where both sides share.
And because this is a problem with the layer twos on Ethereum, that they're fast and quick and super cheap. So you have all this trading activity on these layer twos, which means there's none of that activity on Ethereum layer one. So Ethereum layer one is missing out on all those fees, and it's not beneficial to anybody, because that's part of the argument why ETH has been lagging so much. So yeah, so it is good. Should be good for all of us.
Yeah, I think we've also seen this same type of kind of misaligned interest within Cosmos in general. That, you know, the Cosmos SDK and IBC were very valuable pieces of technology that were widely used across, hundreds of development teams that created, tens of billions of dollars of value, but there was no way to really tie that back to the hub. And so now we see, and as you put it, the ETH layer two has been following a similar path. I think there's the meme of, every time Bitcoin passes 100K, ETH is a little bit lower. And that's, I think, largely in part because of the misaligned interest and value generation of the connected parties. And I think that how JP has really designed this, or how he pitched this to me, 9 months ago, really solves this at a core level, and it's something we're very excited to be a part of.
Are you guys?
So can we? Oh, go ahead.
Apologize, Kenton. Are you guys
No.
currently in talk with other interfaces so that LPs? This can be a streamlined process where, like we talked about, LPs wanting to add additional capital to this, this perp system. Is that being worked on right now? And if, yeah, go ahead, answer that.
No, it's not being worked on right now. Right now, we're focused on just launching the core product, but the design hooks are being included and thought of, so that we will be able to onboard third parties to do things like have to have things similar to like what Hyperliquid has in terms of like their HLP, and what DYDX has for their I forget what they call it, but they have kind of like just general pools for deposits. So ultimately, yes, that what you described is exactly the vision, but it's not a project that we've tackled at the moment.
Okay, so let's say I'm an interface. I don't know, Thor Wallet Control, AsgardX, LeoDex, whatever.
Yeah.
What proactive steps can they take right now? Just reach out to you, or what can they do?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, a DM to the Levana Twitter would be great. Jumping into the Regira Discord and saying, "Hey guys, I want to let's get a deal done." It's that type of proactive effort is definitely what we're looking for. And we should, if we had some, a small smart team that was willing to show up and to put effort into this, they would have a huge advantage over the rest of the ecosystem, once we start publishing docs and releasing SDKs and everything.
All right, interfaces, I'm trying to help you out here. I'm throwing you a bone. You know what to do now. We haven't heard from JB yet. If there's anything you want to add, JB, are we missing anything? You want any clarifications, anything?
No, not at all, man. I was enjoying listening, and I think Jonathan covered most of the points. It's exciting, I think, it's not really common in like DeFi and across ecosystems. I've explored a lot of DeFi over the last number of years. And one of the things that always strikes me as I'm participating and exploring things that are going on is, as Jonathan touched on, like the misaligned incentives between um, parts of the whole. So, like, if you go to, let's say, let's any other layer one, but there's multiple apps on the chain, all competing for liquidity and fees for themselves, having to attract new users and incentivize new users of their own behalf, and basically like cannibalizing their own budget, and not not focusing on only delivering the best experience to the user, but also having to attract users to their product. And then therefore, like, let's say they all end up just having to compete by giving out subsidized APRs or finding other ways to bring users. And I think the Rajira model, where you have the whole suite of apps together, centered around one focal point. They're like the order books, the perps, the liquidation engines, the lending, all working synergistically, cohesively together, centered around the one thing that everyone wants to do, which is bring value to the ecosystem itself. And then even if you go like one step higher than that, you have THORChain, and let's say the more volume and the better Rajira is doing, as again Jonathan touched on and you guys touched on, and the more people that are going to want to bring their BTC, their ETH to THORChains and pools, swap them into secure assets, start getting involved with some of the good opportunities to earn that might be available. The higher the APRs go, the higher the fees go, and then like the THORChain get a kickback from those fees again. So I think it's just a very well designed system where everybody's incentivized to rally around a core purpose, which is just creating the best DeFi experience for new users and the complete experience, the complete suite of apps that they can really find and bring their assets and find whatever they need here, if that makes sense.
Jane, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for the space. I just want to say goodbye to everyone because it's time for me to go to the bed. So thanks so much for the space, and I really have learned a lot and definitely a lot more to learn. So have a good time and catch up you guys with the next space. Bye bye.
Bye bye, dear.
Pleasure,
Thank you.
pleasure.
Bye, Jane.
One of the,
Thank you.
one of the things here, and Levana dropped down. I don't know, maybe that was something with X getting glitchy, but you know,
Yeah, I got rugged by Elon, but I'm back.
oh, yeah, it still has me as a listener. Okay, good, you're back. So I think one of the central thing here, the thing that's blowing my mind right now, and I want to put out a challenge to the audience here, okay? Because I'm not interested in having my beliefs reinforced. I want them challenged, okay? I think Kenton's point, so crucial here, like ETH specifically, with layer 2 siphoning away potential fees and income from Ethereum, it really seems like we have cracked the code here. The synergistic relationship between the app layer and THORChain. We really have something special. I put it out to the audience, people listening to this recording, to share if you can't think of something. Like, tell us where we're wrong. Tell me where I'm wrong. I can't think. I'm trying to think. That's why I brought up the governance things. I'm trying to poke holes in Levana. Okay, I'm trying to poke holes in THORChain. I'm trying to poke holes in Kenton's thoughts. I can't figure it out. I'm not smart enough. Please, I put it out to you all. Tell us where we're wrong, because this is absolutely incredible. It's blowing my mind. The potential is beyond my understanding to grasp with my limited qualities of my brain. So please, guys, tell me. I want to hear it. And earlier, Kenton, I cut you off when I transitioned to Jane. Were you trying to ask a question or say something? I want to make sure I kick it back to you.
No, it's okay. I've always got a million questions. But Shapeshift intern is up. Maybe he's got a question or something he'd like to say.
Go ahead, Shapeshift.
No, thanks. I'll raise my hand, but thank you. Godspeed.
Okay, good. All right, well, I will go then. Well, let's talk about some upside, some hopium. I'm curious, Jonathan, if with the Levana 1.0, you said 4 billion in volume. I'm curious if you've done the math on how much fees you've generated relative to the collateral or liquidity you had, to basically see kind of like what's the ROI there, how efficient it is, and if we can apply that to launching on THORChain, for every $1 billion in volume, it's going to generate X amount of fees for THORChain. Can you do that kind of math? Is that possible?
So a general rule of thumb is $1 million in trading volume will produce roughly $100 of fees to THORChain. Now, it's not that simple, and it actually is better than that. But that's a that is a good low ball metric. And so let's say, for example, we are doing $1 billion a day, which is really what you is not out of the question when you're talking about exponential growth and and large traders that can be trading with significant scale. Somebody comes in with $500,000 of collateral, they do a 10x trade. So now they open and close a trade. They just did $10 million in volume. That's not a big deal for the right pedigree of traders that we're trying to attract here. So imagine that you're doing, um, um, a million, and you're getting $100 off of that, or I mean 1,000 million, and you're getting $100 off of each of those. So that's $100,000 of additional fees a day. That translates to single digit millions, and that's really off of just a handful of large traders. So I think as we continue to grow this, my target is that we should be pulling in tens of millions of additional revenue, within the first year of launch to the THORChain base layer.
That's awesome. So just to recap that quick, so $1 million, let's call it like a guesstimate rule of thumb type thing. A 1 million in volume on Levana should be $100 in fees to THORChain. So that's after the 50% split. So gross,
Yep.
it'd be $200 in fees. $100 in fees
Yep.
goes to Levana and all the participants there, and $100
Well,
goes to
not to
THORChain and its
it actually
participants.
doesn't go to Levana. It goes to the Regira stakers.
I'm sorry, my apologies. Well, Regira stakers and the Regira liquidity providers, right? Everybody wrapped up in that on the Regira side, making that possible.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So, and this is for me what I'm excited about too. Like you said it great. Like somebody comes with $1 million, they can leverage it up to 10 million or 50 million if you want. You said 50x is the highest you'll go. How come?
Yep.
What about? I'm a degen. I want to go 100x, 125x, 100x. How did you decide on 50x? And are you looking at maybe increasing that at some point?
So we will be able to increase that, but it's all about making calculated risks in terms of size. So we're probably not going to let the guy that has put $1 million down go 100x, because it's one bet. It's like we're all on a boat together, and we accept a risk that people can play with fireworks, but like we don't want guys with like rocket launchers playing on the wooden boat. So there has to be some type of upper limit, because one shot into the hull, we want to make sure that we're not going to sink the ship. But that being said, as there's more and more demand, and as it grows, then we will be able to offer higher leverage and additional products which have higher leverage. Like
Right on.
binary
And
options is a great way to have like massive leverage, like what you mentioned,
what is a binary option?
where you're really betting over a short period of time whether or not the price of the asset will be above a certain price or lower than a certain price. It's a very popular financial service within the world of TradeFi. It's perpetual swaps is one product, futures is another product, options is another product. So binary options are another product.
Okay, cool.
And it lends itself well to 1,000x leverage or things like that.
And those binary options, they do have an expiration. Those are timed.
Yes. Yeah. They are
Okay.
timed. Yep.
Okay. Yeah, I'd be super interested in options one day. I think that's awesome. So I've been running around saying, future trading is much larger than spot trading, like 10 to 20 times larger. Would you agree or
It's 40 times.
disagree?
So the rule of thumb within the general world of finance is that for every $1 that's traded on spot, roughly $40 are traded in derivatives.
Wow. So if we've got, forgive me, I don't even know what THORChain's volume is right now, but if we had, if THORChain had a $10 million month in volume on spot, in theory, it should have 40 billion traded on Levana, on the perps.
Which again brings us to those numbers that I was mentioning before, which is like if we can get to $1 billion a day, that's where we want to be.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's nothing saying that the volume on Levana has to be 40 times the spot volume on THORChain, but that's
Yep.
just, you're saying industry standard. That seems to be what it is. And yeah, that makes, yeah, I've seen some exchanges where it's like 100 times compared to their spot
Yep.
volume.
Well,
Yeah.
I
Yep.
suppose like if you have individuals looking to like enter the market with small amounts of capital and make it more efficient, and obviously there's huge risks involved with like, well, there are risks involved with like using leverage and using these different tools, but like someone with bringing $10,000 of capital can, as we touched on earlier, could create very easily with 10x leverage, $100,000 of volume, if that makes sense. So it's like it's a way to make bigger trades, more capital efficient trades available to like more people, and like it's probably more attractive financial product for a lot of people than even if you look at in other sectors and other verticals, like the popularity of things like sports betting, where people are betting on outcomes to happen that quickly like amplify their potential returns in a short period of time. It's probably more attractive for somebody coming with like $100 of capital to be able to go, right, I'm going to be able to potentially get returns 10 times the size my initial capital would otherwise get me if I didn't have access to these products. So it probably makes sense why it is so like popular, like.
Yeah. And does that capital efficiency for the user, does that also translate into capital efficiency for THORChain and the use of secured assets? Like, are these secured assets on Levana, like, are they going to be highly efficient? Like, for every $1 secured assets, we should generate a lot of fees off of it, type thing.
Well, perpetuals has historically been the highest fee to dollar ratio in the crypto market. So, we're hoping that trend will continue with Ruji Perps as well.
That's my hope too, because there's concerns within the chain ecosystem that these secured assets are going to end up being like dead capital, just tied up and locked up and not really earning any fees. But in my mind, the Perps platform should generate a ton of fees on the secured assets they use. It should
Well,
be
I don't
it should
understand
be
why
great.
somebody would. Why would you choose with all of the opportunities that exist in the space? Even just like buying T-bills. Like, why would you choose to secure an asset and do nothing with it? Doesn't make much sense to me. So I think by
Yeah,
definition, it's if if we don't provide great use cases for the secured assets, then de facto the secured assets won't exist.
I think maybe a lending product, that could tie up a lot of capital with low returns. Um, like a collateralized lending thing.
Yeah, yeah. That's kind of like the mom and pop, bakery, uh, type product. Uses a lot of real estate, but it doesn't really make a high profit. So I agree with you there, but I don't think. I think we're gonna have to provide more exciting services in order to really get this thing to grow.
So this brings up an interesting topic about growing or relaxing the security posture on THORChain to make room for more secured assets. Is this something that you're worried about or concerned about, that you think, we do need to uh, make room for more secured assets so you can have a platform like Levana grow? Do you think okay with the security we have? Um, Yeah, what are your thoughts there?
Well, I think that just in terms of a wider variety of secured assets, more capital is just in general good. But we primarily focus on with what's it called, with USDC. So is to get USDC, from large amounts from multiple places. As assuming that we have that, that's our main pain point that we want to make sure is addressed. But in general, I'm not particularly concerned. I hear the updates from the core devs at THORChain, and they're very impressive people. I'm getting a phone call, so I apologize. I had to just decline it. Um, but it is so I know the level of professionalism and skills, that Hans um, and the Nine Realms guys and the Strange Love guys bring to the table. So I'm not particularly concerned over that part of the project, and I just look forward to being able to incorporate larger volumes of secured assets in a wider variety.
So as we stand today, you guys can launch. You're not worried about it. There should be lots of room to get going. And if we do reach the security cap, but we can deal with it then. But for now, to start, you guys you have no concerns. You'll be able to launch fine.
Exactly.
Yeah. When will this go live? Like at what I
So
know
I'm
3.6
hoping.
is, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. I'm hoping that we get on StageNet this week, and then we'll probably run that for a couple weeks just to kick the tires around, let people play with it, and then we'll I'd like to see us live within a month.
Wow, that'd be fantastic. So when you say us live, you mean Levana, like just the perps feature,
Well,
or you mean Regira as a whole?
Regira as a whole, including Ruji Perps and one other app. I'm not sure which other app it would be.
And forgive me too. So going forward, you will be known as Rugi Perps.
So as I
On
said,
on
so the Levana smart contracts on other chains will continue to exist, but
yeah.
there are dedicated Levana engineers that are driving the Ruji Perp ship, and we're very excited to give it our all to make sure that Ruggiera is successful. I think Ruggiera is the most exciting thing happening in crypto today.
Okay, so when I say Levana, I'm referring to Levana, the original, what it is. It's still going, still existing. If I want to talk about perps on THORChain, it's Rugi Perps.
Yep.
The Levana engineers, you guys coded everything, you're working on it, but it's Rugi Perps on Regira on
Yep.
THORChain's app layer. That's what it is going forward. Okay,
Yep. It's a
got it.
unified, and it's more than just like the basketball jerseys, or it's then cosmetics. It's a whole mind shift change as to what is an app ecosystem or an app layer. By having a series of apps that are all branded together, you create a mind share. You create trust. You create brand recognition, and you create a common shilling point around a unified token that has greater distribution, greater number of holders, greater liquidity, meaning the Ruji token. So that's why we've highly recommended any of the LVN holders to participate in the merge and to be excited about what we're building with Ruggiero.
What about your bandwidth? If you're now supporting two different products, um, is that gonna create some mental burden on you? Are you gonna eventually maybe retire the original Levana at some point, or hand it off to someone else, or hand off Rugi Perps to someone else, or can you effectively do both here going forward?
Well, so the most of the instances of Levana today are not profitable, meaning Levana is deployed on a few different chains. So the process to wind down some of those chains has already begun. And time will tell where Levana is in a year. I think that's largely macro driven on Cosmos as a whole. But ultimately, where we want to be is that there's guys waking up every morning and just focusing on Regira and making sure that Regira is the best product out there.
Got it. I'll stop, guys. Boone, you joined us. You have your hand up. You got anything to ask?
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up with, you were talking about the security budget of secured assets, and I see Pragmatic Monkeys on the call. He actually raised a very interesting point a while back that with both like a collateralized lending platform, like some kind of AMM, and then I imagine for perps as well, one potential issue though is, let's say secured assets reach the security cap and then Rune like pulls back a little bit, which reduces the security cap anymore, then people won't be able to top up their positions and could be forced into liquidation if they're unable to add to their positions. And so that's just a potential thing down the road with the security cap that I do think deserves to be like talked about.
Yeah, I don't have a good solution for that today, but I do know that if we're in a situation where anytime that you have a business where too many people want to give you money, that and if you're smart and you're motivated, you turn that problem into an advantage. And I'm confident that as we approach that very good problem to have, that too many people want to give us money, that we'll be able to rise to the challenge and solve it.
That was a great question, Boone. And guys, I really want to emphasize something here. A lot of you might be listening to this, and if you're just joining in, you need to listen to this recording. Okay, you're feeling it in your chest right now, the power of what we've all collectively built here. You need to bond your rune. If you want to do something, then take some agency here. Bond your rune. We had the community build the runebond.com website. If you want to go down that route, please do something on your end to make this a more viable and successful future for us all, okay? Because we're not only going to all profit and be successful here, this is absolutely essential infrastructure for the world at large, and it's going to achieve our greater goal and our ethos, okay? So take some agency. If you haven't bonded your rune, I don't know what you're doing. If you have your rune on a centralized exchange, I don't know why. Take your rune off the centralized exchange and consider bonding your rune, okay? We can all do this. We can work this together. Let's get to the 120 node cap, and then let's push the engineers at THORChain to make that cap even higher, and let's really grow this thing. Let's all do this, all right? Share this space. Share this space right now, whether you're listening live or this is a recording. Take some agency. I'm actually thinking about dumping some of my own money and promoting this space on X. This is absolutely mind-blowing shit we've been listening to here. And I want to hear why this doesn't work. I think Boone had a great edge case that might arise. I want to hear more of those edge cases. I want them addressed. I want them to talk about where things can go wrong. Let's increase the awareness of the power of this thing, and let's make it as robust and as strong as possible. Excellent job, everybody. I am so blown away. I love everything everyone said today. Great job.
Just on man, what you were saying there about like promoting the space and making people aware, like, and we'll make sure we have some sound bites and stuff out over the next few days, and blog posts and some just recaps of some of the things that were discussed, so people can consume and dissect it after the fact if they don't have the opportunity to go through an hour and a half. But we'll make sure that we help you guys and distribute the knowledge and the information as well.
I think there was one good soundbite where the Levana profile responded to Kenton, and Kenton was just like, wow. Because that's exactly what was going through my head as well. Okay. I think it was related to the 40x or something amount of additional swap volume when it comes to perpetuals. Absolutely incredible stuff. I'd like to invite people to the stage. If you've got any concerns, questions, or comments, please bring it up. This is the time to do it. I'm running out of things to say. I'm really rooting for you guys. And if there's anything else we can do, like as an individual that THORChain can do, Please tell me now, because I want to help you guys as much as I can as a non-dev and as a THORChain, member.
Well, I think that once we're on StageNet, we would love to have people help us, and definitely join the Rajira Discord if you haven't joined yet. We, like I said, hopefully by the end of this week, we'll be live on StageNet, if not early next week. It really is about getting people to trade, giving us feedback, asking questions. Let's make sure, let's all work together to make sure that this launch on mainnet is as successful as possible, and that's only going to come through a comprehensive, community testing and usage on StageNet.
I think this thing is only limited. The only limitation to this is our eagerness and our willing to work hard and to ship this thing and deliver the best product available. And so I think everyone in here is probably feeling a little bit bullish right now. But put those emotions aside. Let's focus on raw execution. Whether you're a developer or you're an ordinary community member and you want to share a soundbite or maybe share the space or bond your rune, do something to contribute to this. If everyone in here did a little something, we're going to just maximize the potential of this thing. We all have the capability to do that. I encourage everyone, host a different space. Whatever you can do, let's all work together and make this happen. Absolutely mind-blowing stuff. I hope I'm not overselling it. I hope people not listening to me are like, okay, dude, you are like bullish to the moon right now. But it's blowing my mind. And that does make me feel a little insecure that I'm a little too bullish. But again, I invite people from the audience or people who listen to this recording, tell us where we're wrong. Do that. And if you can't do that, then maybe get a little bullish. I don't know. Leo Dex, you're just on the stage. Go ahead.
Hey guys, yeah, great space. This is Cal from Leo Dex. And I shot Levana a DM because I would love to work with you guys and be one of the first interfaces to support perps and other products. My background is actually as a derivatives trader in TradFi, so I love everything you guys are talking about. I think it's also worth mentioning, and maybe you can talk a little bit about this, that perps and other products will bring a lot of spot volume to the THORChain as well. When you've got that arbitrage happening, it creates a lot of volume, even if you just look at the rune token itself. So I don't know if you've thought about that at all.
Yeah, what we'd like to see is either build in-house or work with third parties to build these cash and carry strategies where you're actually buying spot on the base layer of Rune, and then you're leveraging the counter position on Ruji Perps. And so that, because it requires constant adjusting and and you need to come in and out of positions, as the perps volume grows, so then we hope to contribute to meaningful spot volume trading as well.
I have a question. So I saw JP post. That's JP on THORChain, not the Kujira JP. He posted about Maya protocol. I know this is totally down the line, okay, but I just wanted to get your thoughts on this. If Maya protocol also invited or integrated Rujira, how would a shared security budget between THORChain and Maya protocol work? I'm assuming it would be a separate pool, obviously, but do you have any thoughts around that, or are we still too early to kind of play with that idea?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of open questions. I think it's inevitable that once we have success on THORChain, that Maya protocol will inherit a lot of the benefits and features and functionality. But there are plenty of open questions in terms of interoperability and fungibility of assets between the two chains. And I can speculate on a few different proposed solutions that I've heard kicked around, but I think it's really too early to to start rumors.
Yeah, totally fair. I understand. Leo Dex, do you have your hand up? I don't know if that's a glitch on my end or if you want to speak.
Oh no, I think that was from before.
Okay. Okay. Dang, I don't know, guys. Does anyone have any other questions? Kenton, Boone, JB statements? I don't know what else to say right now. I'm over here just bullishly wiggling all over my chair. I don't know what to do.
I'm trying to scroll through my Twitter. There's people that did ask questions when I posted the space, but now I can't find their questions.
I'll go to my
Um,
phone. I'm on desktop.
yeah. But well, Jonathan, is there anything that we haven't discussed or went over you think we should? That you'd like to highlight to people?
Ruji merch, Ruji mascot. Like we gotta, I think a big part of this is, and I say this, somewhat tongue in cheek, but it is a fun part of any project. Is we're excited to kind of get feedback on what kind of swag you guys would be interested in. We and to make sure that when we do meetups and we do meet the community in person, that you guys walk away, heavily branded as a, I don't know what we call ourselves yet, like, you know, Rugirans. I don't, it's there's a whole vocabulary of community that needs to be built here, with various lore and there will be a whole NFT side of this, and there's well, we want to have fun building this as well. So while the core of it is let's build something that's sustainable, that's innovative, and makes money, let's also have fun doing it.
So how do we buy it? How do we get our hands on it?
Well, we have to make it. It has. I don't think we're even up to like the design phase of that yet. But if people have things that they want, we want to hear from you. What is it that What is it that you guys would like? The first thing I did when I met JP, after I think it was in maybe it was in Singapore, after we had just come on board, is I went to one of the vendors at the marketplace in Singapore, and I just like sat there for half an hour as he embroidered a Ruji hat, and that was the first swag that we had.
You know what you got to do? Pens. And I know it sounds silly, but there's a bank in Florida. It's called Waterfall Bank. They're at Clearwater, and I swear they built half their business out of giving away pens, and that's how I found out about them. And for anyone listening, any builders in crypto, anyone in crypto, they're a crypto friendly bank. Right? You know how difficult it is to find a good relationship in banking. They're fantastic, and they're pro crypto. They'll do MSBs, vast funds, anything you do in crypto, they want to support. But I found out about them from a pen, and just it ended up kind of being word of mouth type thing. So there you go. We need some Ruji pens.
Yeah, hey, actually, Kenton, that's really, I just spitballing ideas here. They have the pens that you can pull the little slip of paper out of the top too, as like advertisement. Maybe that could have a QR code on it or something. I don't know. I'm spitballing here.
There you
But
go.
yeah, I think that's a good idea. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So actually, since we're just talking like willy nilly about these ideas now, I'm actually going to be in Bitcoin Las Vegas. Is there going to be Levana or Ruggira people there? I'd love to hook up, and then we can start working together.
Yeah, I mean, send a DM, and we'll figure out how to have you meet some of the team.
Okay, I'll do that. Awesome, sweet.
And if anybody that's listening is going to be there, feel free to connect as well.
Yeah, awesome. I live close to Las Vegas. I think I'm just going to drive. I'm not going to get a hotel back and forth. It's like an hour and 20-minute drive for me. It's not a big deal. But yeah, sweet, cool. Okay. I
think we're good, man.
I don't know what to say. I think we broke everything.
I think we wrap it up. We're not used to going under 2 hours. Maybe that's what's breaking your brain.
Well, dude, like you answered questions so succinctly, and you covered all the angles. Boone came up and got a good edge case in there. I'm trying to dissect this thing. So this was an efficient communication, great space. This was very content packed, man. So shout out to you, Kenton. You did 90% of the work. Great job, bro.
Well, thanks for Levana, for those guys, you guys willing to show up and answer questions.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. And this doesn't have to be one and done.
Being such a good host,
Oh, anytime.
Like, pleasure.
This doesn't have to be a one and done, right? Maybe after Apple Ruggira launches, maybe we can have another follow up. Talk about how things are going. Yeah. So, and hopefully people listen to this. They have more questions.
We do have a little bit more time. Is PM here? You want to talk a little bit about how people can get involved and the different programs that we have up and coming. The leaderboards and the just I know we've got a whole complicated plan, which I'm just gonna I'm gonna put my foot in my mouth if I say things in the wrong order. But maybe PM is available to come and talk about it for a minute.
I don't know if he's requested or trying to or wants to. I don't want to.
Yeah,
If he isn't, I don't want to put him on the spot. I can
that's
maybe
fine. We'll get
try.
that for another spaces then. But there's a lot
Sure.
of there's been a lot. I mean, PM is like a mastermind of social interaction and just like economic design. And it's been a pleasure to work with him for the past 10 months now. And he's really come up with some. I mean, not just him. I mean the whole team and everything. And the Kajira guys like their reputation precedes them. But they've got yeah, there's some really fun stuff in the works right now that's a combination of stuff that's tried and true and has never been done before. So I think we're really poised to come into the market strong.
That is such a good point. That's such a great point because I think one of the problems, guys, in both ecosystems, like let's just draw a line between THORChain and Ruggira, and we had some of the brightest minds in the world trying to solve hard problems on both ends of the equation, but the ultimate solution was actually to come together, and that's what's happened. And then this addresses such mind-blowing problems that both of us had, and the permutation of our ecosystems was the solution. That was the fix. And here we are, and now we figured it out, and everyone's gelling real good. The vibes are awesome. So damn, I am super pumped right now, and I hope you guys are pumped too. It's okay to be excited, and maybe you're not excited enough. Maybe I'm not excited enough. Maybe I'm gonna go drink another cup of coffee right now. Wow, guys, totally blown away. Totally blown away.
Awesome, guys. I think this is great. Should we wrap it up here?
I think
Awesome.
so.
Thanks so much.
All right, thanks,
Appreciate
all.
it. Thanks, guys.
Bond your ruin, people.
Thanks, guys. Take
Bye.
care. Bye.
Bye.
This space was downloaded via spacesdown.com. Visit to download your spaces today.